Over the last decade, I seem to have developed a very bad habit of donating my hard-earned middle-class wages to fund the dreams of millionaires. These two millionaires are, of course, Chris Roberts and Stephen Sharif, and the dreams are Star Citizen and Ashes of Creation. I must admit that I share a lot of the dreams that both of these projects represent and have observed over the years a very interesting dynamic. One is considered a scam, and the other is not. Why is that? Is it because it has become fashionable to hate Star Citizen and secretly or not so secretly hope for its failure? Whereas the same cannot be said for Ashes of Creation? Let's explore the two products, the recent drama surrounding both, and I'll tell you what I think. This channel is built around Star Citizen, and it remains the game I have the most faith in. Granted, it wavers at times, and my spending does not prevent me from being very critical of the product. But with the recent news of the 4.0 delay, which is now scheduled for Q4 of this year, a date which I doubt it will make, by the way, the game is once again being called Scam Citizen, and the haters are rejoicing with the "I told you so's" all over the internet. Those people are, of course, stupid, and thinking Star Citizen is a scam is a pretty smooth-brained take on the project. How could it be a scam? It is playable to a degree, though not very good. The cost to buy in and pledge is a mere $40, which is much cheaper than the usual gamer slop that comes out these days. So, no, Star Citizen isn't a scam. It is certainly a mismanaged project, a bad game in its current form, and is struggling to find its way and perhaps adhering too much to a design which isn't feasible in a modern age of gaming. Many of those issues I have covered in previous videos, and many more I will cover in upcoming videos. A bad game? Yes. A scam? No. SIG is very transparent with their funding. Every year we get a graph that represents what they have earned. Every week or so, we get an ISC episode that covers what is coming. Developers are very open on public forums and private discords. Not my Discord, of course, and I don't think SIG could handle being in ours. But they are on public discords nonetheless. The good and the bad for Star Citizen are very publicly visible and openly acknowledged by the company. So, again, why the hate? Why is it called a scam? I think a lot of it boils down to a few things. The first is the length of development. This thing is over a decade old now, and it isn't even close to being released. Does that make it a scam? No. It just makes it a mismanaged project with endless feature creep. The second is the sheer amount of money the product has raised. Almost $1 billion total now, possibly being the most expensive game ever made, or coming close to it. When people see numbers like that, but then see the game in its current state, their default mid-wit reaction is to call it a scam. Again, the amount raised for what we currently have does not make it a scam, but rather a bad game. The third and final reason why people call it a scam, why it receives so much hate, and why people wish for its failure comes down to the community. A lot of the most vocal supporters of Star Citizen are the most brainwashed, out-of-touch idiots you may ever encounter in the gaming world. These people will take any valid criticism and write it off as, well, it's pre-alpha. These clowns will take any improvement or compromise made by SIG in order to get this project moving forward as selling out or insulting the original backers, which, by the way, are an absolute minority compared to the current post-Kickstarter backers. Either way you cut it, a lot of the Star Citizen cultists are the most unlikable, annoying, and downright stupid people you will ever meet. And when encountering such insufferable simps like that, you cannot help but want to see what they care so much about fail. Ashes of Creation is a project that I backed in the beginning. Friends of mine from what used to be SOE got me involved in the Kickstarter, and I decided I wanted to throw my cash in to get it off the ground. I was one of the highest tier backers. I think it cost me around $3,000. I was a believer, and I have friends who work at Intrepid Studios, so I wanted to help out in whatever way I could. I followed very closely and could not wait for the game to come out. As time went on, however, I started to see cracks in the wall. The game looked more and more like a disaster. Of course, my $3,000 didn't give me or anyone really good access for testing purposes. And for the majority of us, the first test we could do for the game was the train wreck known as Apocalypse, which was a battle royale designed to test the game. This battle royale was, of course, monetized and played like a third-person shooter and not an MMORPG that we all backed. I and many others were furious. So furious that I personally gave Steven Sharif a piece of my mind. Somebody in that meeting happened to record the entire meeting and upload it to YouTube. I decided to clip the relevant parts and cut out some profanity, but I will give a link to the full video in both the description and on screen.
Alpha Zero was a much bigger system for sure, but it wasn't using the new architecture that we had. And in order to update Alpha Zero to basically utilize that new infrastructure, that's creating Alpha 1. And the timeline to get Alpha 1 up and running was a timeline that was far more considerable than the timeline it would take to get the Battle Royale testing the certain fundamental features that apply to the technology behind making Alpha 1 possible, which is, again, why we decided to go that route.
Do you see yet why this was a fucking giant disaster yet? Like, are you like actually cognitive of what happened with Battle Royale?
I view the Battle Royale as successful in the sense that it gave us the necessary information to adjust and fix some architecture that was necessary to move forward with Alpha 1.
I've never played a game or tested a game where there was a game mode or version of the game that was not going to be included in the primary game. From every MMO I've played, from Planetside 1, Dark Age of Camelot, you name it, if I ever tested those, all right, I've never had this game mode that wasn't there. So when people see this, bullshit, shut up with that. That's nonsense.
Okay.
Right? That's how many times have changed. This is like loading up World of Warcraft, and you're playing some mini game instead of doing quests in North Shore Abbey.
Sure.
There was nothing here that was built on that says this is going to be an MMO game. And I don't care about the monetization or the delays. I don't give a fuck about that. But what I'm talking about here is the perception that I have. I could tell you, I could speak for over 1,000 people in our guild that were looking at your game here. Everybody thinks your game is complete based on that Battle Royale. And that's fine, but hold on. Based on that Battle Royale, okay? Now, if there was something there, classes, basic foundations of what the game is going to be to build upon,
right,
things would have been a lot different. I'm not going to pretend like I have inside knowledge or know your development. I get that. But what I'm telling you, from somebody who did back the game and has a lot of guys who want to play it, it stinks like and seeing this, no classes, no nothing, and then saying, well, this is not representative of the final product, then brother, why the fuck is it even there?
As you can probably tell, I was calling bull on a supposed test, which was fully monetized and never developed upon further. Shockingly, this was not enough to get the internet world calling AOC a scam. At least not to the levels of Star Citizen. If anything, up until very recently with the drama of them selling alpha access, people considered this game to be the next big thing. You had gaming grifters masquerading as developers such as Asmongold, telling his legion of mindless drones this was the next big MMO ever. You had that AstroTurf Nepo baby furry Maldavius Figtree, Pirate Software, telling his yiffing followers that AOC was going to be the game we've all been dreaming of. Just prior to that, both of those clowns were dumping on Star Citizen and calling it a scam, or preying upon the emotions of the gullible by calling SIG's business practices predatory and disgusting, which I think is very appropriate words coming from somebody like Pirate Software, who is most likely very familiar with being both predatory and disgusting. That has slightly changed now with the aforementioned drama surrounding Alpha Access being sold. But the apology tour of Steven Sharif and Intrepid Studios has started, and now all is forgiven. Once again, the unwashed masses on Reddit gather together, hold hands, and proclaim, "We did it! They're listening!" When less than a month prior, Intrepid really thought that selling limited-time alpha access to a game was a good idea. Gamers truly are the most stupid people on Earth, and quite possibly the worst consumers, on par with, or just slightly behind people who watch superhero movies. The biggest thing I feel like most people who get worked up over any company monetizing things forget is that games are expensive. Bandwidth isn't cheap. Nothing in this world is free. Both of these companies, in particular, are free from publishers and big investors, and, as a result, must come up with ways to shake down their most devoted fans for their hard-earned money so that these millionaires can see their dreams come true, and maybe our dreams too. Do any of you ever stop to think about how much it costs to run a company? Not just a gaming company, but any sizable company? You have employee salaries and all of the expenses that come along with those employees. You have to pay contractors. You have to pay for the studio, the property the studio is on, and perhaps even rental fees. You are subject to taxes and expenses associated with just having a company in general. None of this is cheap. And when you add on top of it a constant running service, you are now paying for servers and bandwidth to keep the services you plan to one day charge for running. These are reasons why MMOs of old used to have subscription fees. Ironically, the same people who will complain about a $15 a month sub are the same people who will spend $100 or more on the next COD game, or pay $50 or more a month on various streaming services for entertainment. They're also the same people who will spend an exorbitant amount of money on DoorDash instead of going shopping for groceries and preparing a meal for a fraction of the cost. The bottom line is that they're stupid. And you'll hear me call people stupid a lot, and that is because a lot of people are, in fact, stupid. So it works out. If you've followed this channel or listened to my videos, you may have heard the absolute disgust I have for most modern gamers. And it is because I have witnessed a decline in their collective cognitive abilities over the years. If Star Citizen or Ashes of Creation did not monetize something, there would be no game for us to play. And sometimes I do not think people understand that. Money is also something that everyone understands, and big numbers often confuse the simple minds of gamers. But I can tell you that whatever revenue either Star Citizen or Ashes of Creation generates through whatever practices they see fit is just enough to keep the project going. No matter what your favorite YouTube grifter tells you, in the grand scheme of things, the amount of money these two projects raise is not a whole lot when you factor in the expenses I mentioned at the start of this segment. Star Citizen has, without a shadow of a doubt, the best monetization scheme from both a profit standpoint and consumer standpoint. The barrier of entry to test this barely functioning game is a mere $40. You can log in whenever you want, 24/7, and experience the disaster at your leisure. Sure, you won't have fun, and you may feel ripped off, but you'll get your money's worth and take comfort in knowing that your pitiful contribution helped put another meal on Chris Roberts' table. Ashes of Creation, on the other hand, is without a doubt the worst I have ever seen. You can spend hundreds of dollars to buy hideous looking skins. Look at this Blue Otter, for example. None of these skins are available, and there is no game to log into or play. You can also purchase alpha access to test yet another generic fantasy MMORPG during certain limited time frames in the future, or you could be like me and have spent $3,000 almost 10 years ago to yell at Steven Sharif in a public Discord. I think I got my money's worth. The bottom line is not only is Star Citizen's backer program far more generous to the consumer, I didn't even mention melting, upgrading, buying back, or anything else, but it also does an amazing job of making you feel like you own something. You genuinely feel like you own the ship you buy. It comes with your own serial number. You can name some of them. They have quote-unquote lifetime insurance, and they just overall feel like yours. You own it. It's brilliant, and SIG nailed it. It works on all of us. It has worked on me so well that in 3 years, I managed to become a Legatus tier backer. Ashes of Creation, on the other hand, gives you some AliExpress tier concept skins and a Blue Otter, and maybe some time-limited alpha access. Do I really need to elaborate more? Both games are backer-funded millionaire dreams, and both are likely to never meet expectations. It is just much more fashionable to hate on Star Citizen, and Ashes of Creation has the support of mega content creators, one of which is a degenerate furry, and they drive public opinion. Star Citizen, though, to me, is the most unique of the two and has been shaping up to be a much better product in the long run. In future videos, I am going to be addressing more of the issues I see with SC, and some in particular that I think will be holding it back from wider success. One of the issues is shared by both SC and AOC. And no, I will not likely be doing any AOC videos, but I may as time goes on if you guys really want me to. As always, let me know what you think in the comments and hop onto our Discord too. We have lots of conversations on there, and I always care what you have to say, even if you think Deadpool is a good movie franchise.